Hello everyone and welcome to the L&D Webinar and panel discussion. My name is Purvi Debuka and I'll be your moderator here today. I work as the Customer Success Associate at zekeLabs and I'm really excited to be hosting this session. Our main objectives from today's event are providing a platform for L&D professionals, sharing ideas and learning between the leaders, and building a strong community of L&D and HR professionals. A quick glimpse of the structure of today's event. We would kickstart our webinar with the introduction, followed by a speaker's address, further to the open house Q&A, and close the event with a vote of thanks. So to start off with, who are we? zekeLabs is the leading name in enterprise upskilling. We are committed to help our corporate partners build a future-ready workforce by upskilling and reskilling their workforce on cutting-edge technologies like AI, machine learning, big data, cloud, IoT, web, and others. Some of our training programs we specialize in includes entry-level training for the new recruits, emerging technology training, and tech workshops for existing experienced workforce. As you can view on the screen, this is the simplified structure of a continuous learning program that kicks off with the stakeholder discussion involving an active discourse between our experts and tech leaders, followed by a pre-training assessment to gauge the skill requirement. Our experts then customize the training plan to align with the training needs and goals. And following the training delivery, a post-assessment test is conducted to analyze the ROI and identify future learning requirements. So essentially, we provide employee capability building solutions to build a future-ready workforce. We provide continuous learning programs and one-off training assessments designed to meet with your training needs. We don't believe that one-size-fits-all approach. The programs are designed in consultation with the stakeholders and the basis of alignment with the end objective. After program design, the delivery happens via online interactive sessions, and finally, the participants are evaluated all online to quantify the ROI for the partners. Moving on to the event. Today, with me here, I have 3 L&OD experts to share their individual experiences of successfully leading their teams through these unprecedented times. Our first speaker here today is Pratima, who's the AVP HR at Huawei Technologies. Pratima is recognized in the industry as 50 most influential HR tech leaders in Asia, 100 most professional HR leaders in India, and has been awarded International Superhuman Achievers 2016 at World HRD Congress. Our second speaker today is Josephine, who is the Global Learning Solutions Lead at ZS Associates. Josephine is a proven leader with 19 years of experience in L&D and has an incredible ability to motivate and maintain high employee engagement, supervising teams comprising multiple locations, and support them to handle and deliver high performance in a timely manner. Last but not the least, we have Saujanya, who is the organizational and enablement partner at PayPal. Saujanya has partnered with global leaders and PBP to enable them meet their organizational objectives through leveraging L&OD diagnostics and interventions in multiple arenas like leadership capability development, talent management, employee engagement, to name a few. The order of the talk today would be as follows. We would kickstart with Pratima, who will first talk about how to manage the HR practices and talent management in general during these times. The next presenter would be Josephine, who would delve in deeper into the learning and development area. And finally, Saujanya will share with us the principles and mindset change required to be successful in the new normal. Meanwhile, we would love to hear your inputs, so please use the chat window for dropping in your ideas and queries. Also, please drop your questions in the Q&A box and our panelists will take it up either at the end of the talk when time permits or in the last 10 minutes. We would dedicate our last 10 minutes of the webinar and aspire to answer your burning questions that you may have. And with this, I would like to hand over the stage to our speakers. I will be their with you in case you need something. So please feel free to drop any questions or concerns here in the chat box. So without further ado, let's start with Pratima here. Pratima, over to you.
Thanks, Purvi. Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Bangalore. So I think it is quite a different world. Am I audible? Can I see some highs if I'm audible and if the voice is very clear? Okay, great to go. And so thanks to zekeLabs for giving the opportunity to share my thoughts and the learnings with respect to what we have experienced in my organization and personally as a talent management leader, what I implemented in my organization. Okay, so we can have, and if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and I'll try to answer basis the time which we will be having it. Okay, so with that note, I'm looking forward for learning from all of you with your questions and what you have done in your organizations, because these are the times quite unprecedented. We have never, HR has never seen such kind of crisis across, where each one of us need to transform at the same time. Everyone looks up to the HR to come out with new innovative solutions, thoughts, how to function. And I think business dependencies on HR during this time was the highest. So with that, I will just try to share my thoughts on what we did and what we experienced and how we are transforming in Huawei. And also, I would love to hear from all of you, because you all guys are quite experienced in the L&D especially, and I understand it's a quite diverse audience today. So please feel free to share your thoughts on that. And if I can come back, if I don't have the answers for it, I'll surely try to come back to zekeLabs to share the things with you. Okay, so with that, let me start, and just let me know if you cannot hear me or if there is any network disconnections are there. Please have some patience, because sometimes you cannot really understand about the network issues here. Okay, so just let me know if you are able to view the presentation or not. Presentation is just to take an aid. I hope all of you can see it clearly. Okay. So I think this short talk is not only on a success story, what we have implemented in the organization, but also I would like to leave you guys with a thought that really do we need to rethink as an HR about our roles and what transformation. And I'm sure my other panelists, Saujanya and Josephine, they will also touch upon the what and the how part with more practical experiences, what they are doing in their organizations. So with that, a brief intro about me. I'm engineer by education and HR by profession. Overall, around 20 years plus experience. I have played a multiple role from as a software engineer to documentation and tech pubs head, and then I had the services delivery center as an HRBP head in the Huawei, and then now I'm heading the talent management from last 4 years, and also I'm handling the consumer business line HRBP lead role there. And yes, some industry recognition I have got. So I generally manage the high impact expert development programs, leadership development and performance management at Huawei. And yes, learning with all of you guys, with different veterans in HR, and trying to do my little bit value add to the HR community. And that's why we all are here. So today, I think I would like to share on 3 parts. Why we need to rethink HR, especially in the COVID-19 crisis. I think since March, it has started in India. And we have seen a lot of challenges as an HR community where we really did not know how to handle that. But yes, we have charted those challenges and come out with practical solutions with learning from community and from each other. And then we will touch upon what to do to drive this transformation and how to do. How as an HR, L&D professional, or as any HR role, what are the possible game changers we can apply in our role? So I think all of you would have been facing, I think this is a common issue which zekeLabs told me also, that many new hires we are hiring in our organization during this COVID pandemic times, where everyone from the remote places and in India joining virtually, right? We have never experienced, especially in my organization, there was no work from home culture was there. Everything was face to face. So for us, it was a quite a situation we are in when we don't know how to handle things. But yes, I think with the great teamwork, the two key challenges which we dwell more on is how to do this virtual onboarding virtually, and how to ensure, especially from the talent management side, I had a biggest challenge that how to make the engagement of these new hires, especially the campus hires, effectively, and we give them the learning experience also seamless and more effective. So these were the two top challenges, and I'm sure all of you would have been also facing, and you would have deployed. And in my organization, we have not seen the systems are not so well integrated. There are systems, there are automations, but it's not well integrated, different solutions, because of the varied nature of the country's businesses. So these are the top issues which we have experienced during our remote joining when these new hires were joining. Ineffective employee experience, we were thinking about this risk. Second, there was a lack of personalized connect with manager, because in virtual, how you will ensure a personalized connect, and how you can ensure the feedback sufficiency. And third thing is there was a weak relationship with the mentor. So slow integration in the team, because in virtual, how will you build this team building, right? And obviously the last but most important is how do we ensure as a talent management leaders and the L&D teams to ensure that the new hires understand the organizational values well, and how to overcome this team alignment gaps. So these were the challenges we all have been during COVID times, and we are experiencing day in, day out. So the situation is all of us are facing is COVID-19 lockdown happened in March all of a sudden, and all the offices were closed. We all were asked to work from home, right? And there were new hires were coming, whether they are experts, whether they're campus hires, whether they're niche talents. And there was a big need for building the internal talent competency. So as we just discussed, that there were 5 key areas which we were worried about, is not only the onboarding to be effective, but also the faster value alignment. How do we engage this new talent, and how do we ensure the virtual learning is more effective, and how to train the existing talent, not only your new talent, but your existing talent also, because the technology is changing at a very faster pace. So how to ensure our existing talent is gaining the new competences without face-to-face trainings, right? So there were 4 solutions which we have come out, which I will touch upon in as a part of the case study. So there was a virtual NEO, there was a virtual onboarding and connect programs, virtual learning workshops, and the virtual engagement and the recognition programs. So I think with these all challenges in mind, I think HR, especially the talent management L&D folks, had a very big responsibility in terms of rethinking the HR role, right? And so as we all know that HR is not on the agenda, but it has become the agenda, especially COVID-19 has created, accelerated space a lot. Okay. And I think we all know that, you know, as with this industrial revolution, which is happening, right? From 140 years, from the industrial era to internet and digital era, I think our technologies are changing from mainframe to, if you see client server PCs, then we were Web 1.0, then 2.0, then big data, then IoT and AI. So I think the technology will be keep transforming, and this gap of technology transformation and the HR is becoming technology adoption. I think it is becoming closer and closer. So it's a very, very big responsibility as an HR folk that we close this gap and our HR becomes more and more tech savvy, right? So if you see in the HR solution areas, I'll just try to use the highlighter if I can. Just allow me some. Okay, can you see this? Okay, so I think if you see, as we moved on, the employee relations have been transforming as the technology is transforming, And as the industry is moving to 4.0 and we are already there, the engagement solutions in HR have been changed, especially in the employee relations part, from engagement to experience management with instant gratification, right? In the talent acquisition area, the candidate sourcing HR used to worry about, now it has been transformed to social profiling with AI-driven sourcing. In the performance management space, annual reviews have been transformed to the frequent reviews with real-time feedback. And in the talent space, we were thinking about workers. Now we think about the knowledge workers in gig economy, right? How to utilize this talent. And in the HR ops side, I think we are talking about chatbots, AI bots, and we are there now. And with this digital transformation, HR evolution is happening. And this COVID-19 has brought in a lot of changes in every organization. And I think the pace the digital transformation was happening in HR when I was reading some survey reports last year versus today, it just happened instantly. Now it forced everyone to think about the digital transformation with as early as possible, right? Because there was no other choice. We have to just transform. Yeah. So as I was talking about one of the report which I was reading from the PwC on the CEO Survey Global Talent 20th report, which came out. Now, most of the CEOs, they started thinking about rethinking about the whole HR function. So when they did the survey with all the CEOs, they found that 60% of the CEOs are rethinking their HR function. 77% see the lack of key skills availability as the biggest threat to their business. And only 34% feel that HR is well prepared for the challenges ahead. And now this was a situation last year. So last year we were talking about gradual part of the change is over and we are now going to experience the sudden part of the change, and COVID helped in that. I think that is a positive side we can think from the COVID-19 has brought in. And now HR is evolved from following a trend to lead the trend. Now, I think if I draw a map from the contribution and the value as an HR business from the business department, and on the value part for the business department, X and Y axis, I can see that HR is being transformed from being an executor to professional to a business partner. And now what we have become is the engine of transformation, agents of change, and leaders of the process of innovation. And this is what the boardroom leaders, they expect HR not to be just a part of input giver, but to be part of creating the value on the board, right? So this is what the evolution is bringing. And today, I think most of you are playing a very pivotal role in your organization during this crisis time, right? You've come out with new innovations on how to do the things more effectively and better. I'm very sure on that. So what we need to do to drive this digital transformation, we need to adapt to the new business paradigm to be competitive, innovative, transparent, and connected. So these are the 4 R's which I think as an HR fraternity, we can do: unlearn, learn, and relearn. And I think we all are right now in the phase of relearning and learning something, right? So we can focus on these 4 drivers of change. First is reimagine. When I say reimagine, reimagine your organization as an L&D. If you're in L&D, if you are in talent management, if you're in talent acquisition, you reimagine your organization and your function, that how we are going to add more value in the board and how we will transform our organization in the current unprecedented times. Relook on your HR processes and policies. Maybe many things we were just doing because it was asked us to do, but we never thought whether it is really required or whether it is adding any value. I think these crises has given us opportunity as an HR function to relook into all our HR processes. And personally speaking, I have changed around 10 processes in the talent management last 8 months. So which were not adding values and which could have been optimized with much better efficiency in my organizations. Revitalize. I think this is another important factor which every HR, L&D professional or talent management professional should think. We need to revitalize our HR current capability and upskills ourselves. Until unless you don't invest in yourself, you cannot, and you don't sharpen your saw, I think we cannot do much for the organization also. So please revitalize your team, your team's capability, those who are working in HR, to drive this transformation further. And reinforce, because a very important thing is when you are changing the policies, when you are reimagining the organization, when you're revitalizing the talent, then it's very important you need to start from the top. You need to change the mindset of your leaders and the decision maker. Then only you can predict the right future organization and the right people evolution, which is suitable for the upcoming businesses. So how to drive this change? So I think we, most of the time we used to think that HR is a, a fun time person, whenever happy birthday HR, many people used to call. I don't think so nowadays, that kind of perspectives which many of the business leaders are having. They are looking HR as a driver for the change. They are looking HR as a potential maker and enabler for the business. And I think that is what we, infuse our expertise into the business and this transformation. So how we do it? So we talked about why we were doing it, because the technologies and the things are in this VUCA world is changing. And now even this crisis, which no one thought about, it came all of a sudden in front of us. So we need to think that how agile an HR needs to be, how resilient we need to be, right? So we need to develop a partnership mindset. So HR cannot do this transformation alone. So we need to build this partnership mindset and what is required and how HR can do that. So as HR, what I felt is we have faced two major HR challenges. One is the internal capability challenge, and second is the external challenge. External challenge is not in much of your control, right? But internal capability challenge, which you can do something about. So external challenges like talent war is there. There's a gig economy which is coming in. How to retain the best talent if your competitor is more stronger. How to handle the digitization and millennial challenges. So some things you can do in external, but I think more what we can focus in HR is the internal capability challenge. We need to help people with two kinds of skill. One is as an HR, you need to have a people-focused skills, and second is the data-focused skills. So HR has to overcome these two major HR challenges to really become effective and efficient in this game. So what I meant by people-focused skills, this cannot be automated. Creativity, critical thinking, empathy, because these are the things you are bringing the value on the board table. Business, most of the people can do, but people focus is an HR's job. So how you need to reskill your employees, how you need a talent advisors for your employees. I think this is what L&D folks should do. Data focused skill is required from the HR angle. Scientific mindset we need to build in. Domain knowledge, business acumen you need to have, and you need to require these two challenges. So you need to upgrade yourself to support and present a better solution, which is a combination of people and from the intelligence of the data. So how you can do that? What is a recipe for an HR, L&D person, or any HR function or HR leader of this digital readiness in this COVID times? As I told, reimagine your organization and function. So when I say reimagine, you need to redefine JD for your HR roles and simplified HR organization. Second thing, relook. Relook, establish human HR systems, consisting processes or policies. Please relook, revise. If something is not required, remove it, make it more optimized, but more effective and value-oriented. Revitalize your team. Use HR Academia. I don't know why there is no HR open source. We talk about open source, but I think we should have HR open source community. And we need to use this kind of HR open source community to learn and to develop the skills of HR fraternity. Reinforce and build this transformative and systematic leadership. And I think it's L&D folks has a more responsibility and ownership on this, that we need to empower and build transformative leadership. We need to build this growth mindset in our leadership team. Otherwise, the transformation really becomes very, very difficult. And last but not the least, we need to improve the pace of HR solution implementation. We cannot take 2 years' time. With this COVID, I think some solutions we have implemented in less than 15 days. So I think we need to enhance and improve the pace of our HR solutions deployment so that we can see the result and effectiveness and improvise if it is not working well. We need to work more project-based and more short cycle HR interventions. And these are the 5 factors which I suggest as a recipe for HR professionals. So become coaches, be enablers, be data scientists, and be workforce strategists. So on the last part from my talk is a case study which we implemented in my organization. So when these new hires were joining us, especially I will take an example of new experienced hires, when they were joining us, see, they were good. So if you see this diagram, they were good in the 3 types, right? Green means they had exposure on that area. No, red means no exposure. And if you say orange or yellow means less exposure. So when they joined, these experts join our organization, the domain knowledge and may be very good because that's the reason, because of the technical knowledge they have been hired, but the product knowledge about your organization may not be good, right? In the domain where they're working may not be so strong. Also, it's possible, right? And they may not know well aware about your organization tools and the processes. And organization culture and team integration will be less because they don't have an exposure, but the technical knowledge will be good. So how do you train? So first you need to know where the gaps are, right? And then in this virtual world, when they're joining, you need to focus on the 4 aspects, which we, I think what we did is during the COVID lockdown, when these lateral hires were joining, we focused on our virtual new employee induction program. We made the whole program virtually delivered, and we used a lot of engagement tool, which I will share with you in the next slide. So we had a virtual onboarding and virtual connect programs. We had 4 weeks before they joined, on the day of joining, there was a connect from the manager, from the HR, from the mentor, from the the onboarding team. So these are the virtual, so that there is an engagement is maintained before any hire joins us. And then after on the day of joining, because everything is happening virtually, so we need to pay individual and personalized attention on the person so that he understands the organization well, and if he has any hitches and queries based on his competence level, he can clarify. And with so many connects, at least he will form a bond with at least one of the channels, right? So we use these 4 channels. And then when after the person joins, after the day of joining, we engage them minimum more closely with 4 weeks. So D-4 and D+4, we focus the more attention. And that is the time when we do virtual new. We do a lot of connect programs. We had a virtual engagement program so that the person can understand our organization value system. And also recognition programs are also virtual. And we adopted the mode called self-learning and classroom learning model. Now this classroom learning model was also virtual because of the COVID. And we had a virtual competency program. So basis the competence level of the person, we have completely transformed our whole competence program in a virtual mode. So these are some of the tools which I have used in my organization. And I think my takes is, whenever you are conducting any session, especially virtually, if there is a scope, you can have your trainers, you can give them an orientation session, which we did for most of our now virtual learning programs. We give an orientation to the trainers, how they can establish an engagement. In this also, I think when I will be taking up the questions, I will look into how to engage with your audience. So you can use a lot of tools like Mentimeter. I use Mentimeter in my organization to get an instant feedback, because today is the world of instant gratification and instant, feedback. So I think we can use these kind of tools like Mentimeter. Some people use different other kinds of tools. There are a lot of tools available where you can get the instant feedback from your participants, from your learners, and you give free access to the learning kits if it is available, so that you can limit and time bound your talk or your learning sessions. And you can poll how is the learning going using a different kind of tools. You have to instill the healthy competition when you are taking any training or when you are organizing any learning event. You need to instill healthy competition. You can use leaders board. You can do some role play and simulation and keep some observers virtually to make it more enriching discussions and a better virtual participation. And yes, self-learning assessments you can do, which we have tried in our organization, that after the training, there's a small short learning assessment goes to all the participants, so that we know that what is the knowledge retention happening of that 45 minutes module, and then we recognize the best top learners. So these are the 8 techniques which we have used for all our learning programs, and we have seen a quite good results in our virtual trainings and the trainees engagement. So to end my sharing, and I personally feel HR is all about high touch and high tech. High touch because we need to have this high touch with our employees, with our people, using virtually, using the technology, even we are in the COVID times. So HR's responsibility is to build all the channels where you can maintain the high touch with your people. And yes, have a high tech, use data to have this high touch more effective. Because if you don't know the individual issues, if you don't know the individual gaps from the skills to growth to concerns, I think you cannot add the value so effectively. So as an L&D professional, be high tech and have a high touch with your folks. Then you can be more effective in your role. So as I told you, with this, I would like to end my talk, and I would love to take the questions. Thank you all for listening me.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Hi, can you hear me now? Sorry, I think I was on mute. Okay, great. All right, so let me start by sharing my screen. All right. Can you all see my screen now? All right, so let's get started. So thank you everyone for joining this session, and thank you zekeLabs for giving me the opportunity to connect with all of you today. What I'm going to do today is cover a little bit more, like a deep dive into the learning function, right? Fatima covered a lot about how the HR has been helpful, and yes, being part of that team, I know how it's been during this particular time frame. Okay. So before we get started, just a little bit of an introduction about myself. I've been in the learning industry for about close to 21 years now. Started my career as an instructional designer. I have learned a lot through my journey, and right now I'm so happy to implement a lot of these solutions to people along the way. All right. So started for a long part of my career, I was, managing content development, e-learning development. I was part of LMNK, and which is now popularly called as Skillsoft. Many organizations use Skillsoft content. And of course, this gives a wide variety of, different content that's out there, right? Be it skills enhancement, leadership programs, business development, whatever it is, right? So that's the content development aspect of it. Now, my career in Accenture Consulting helped me know a lot about how stakeholders want to know about learning, right? So learning intervention, how is it helpful for the learner? Is it able to bring about a change in their behavior? Is it imparting a skill? Are they doing their job better? Is there a good ROI for the investment that's going into learning, right? So all of those things come in. Now, my role here at ZES Associates is more about providing learning solutions, right? And this comes about in multiple ways. So I manage the technology framework that's happening here at ZES from a learning standpoint, be it any solutions that we need to provide globally, be it virtually, be it classroom, or however it helps learners enhance their skills. Okay. Now, dive into the topic for today. what happened? Today we're talking about social distance world, right? Before COVID started, how is the learning happening, right? We had new people joining the organization who needed to be trained. We have existing people in the organization who are, in a learning journey throughout their career, because any new project they're part of, or if they're moving from one role to another role, or whatever it is, they need to learn continuously. That's part of a person, and a person will be more effective on their job if they learn more. Right? So at ZS, what we do is we have a lot of sessions planned for knowledge building for the individuals, cross-skilling, upskilling. We have planned events, which just, it's like a 2-day event, which just talks about learning and all of these things. How did we learn the most part of it, right? It's mostly the classroom aspect of it, right? We did have online training, not predominantly. If you look at how people mostly learn, it's via the classroom media, okay? And yes, we did have virtual medium as well, because we have offices all over the globe, and to make sure that the same information is available for people across the globe, and that connect and learning from your peers, from your leads, from your leaders is very essential. And of course, yes, all of these particular options are available. Now, what changed with the COVID, right? Everybody started working from home, and it just happened over a period of had a few days to decide, and then everybody was working from home, right? Now, what did not change were, yes, new joiners coming to the organization, like Pratima mentioned in detail how it happened in that organization. I think every organization went through the same thing, right? The new joiners coming into the organization, and the reskilling, upskilling of people moving from maybe one project to another, or moving to a different location. Of course, that stopped a little bit because of the COVID. But on-the-job training and, skill building training, all those things which were planned, like a journey that was there for the learners. For example, if a new person is joining in, it's not just about the onboarding, right? So you do have trainings planned for them over a period of 6 to 12 months, right? Now, all these things which were pre-planned had to continue. And then people needed to know all of these skills to do their job, right? So what changed with the whole thing, right? The learning team was put into a lot of these particular aspects. Yes, we had to work a lot with many of the other functions that were there in HR. But what actually helped a lot is to quickly think about, all right, we currently have the classroom model. How can we scale up the virtual model, right? And it's also not just about doing it for today. When we actually went into the whole COVID situation, I can give you one example of what happened, right? In around mid-March, when we all were thinking about this whole thing, we knew that there were new batches joining us in the next 3 weeks, all right? And we have onboarding every Monday. So what happens is like new set of folks join every other week, right? So we had to look at, all right, now everybody is going virtual. How do we make sure that we keep these new people who are joining the organization effectively engaged, right? So we started putting together a program for 3 weeks for each one of those, different audience. We had to obviously look at the audience, because if a person is coming for the consulting team, they will need a different set of skills. And if they're coming for the technology team, they will need different set of skills. So we started putting all of these things together. Of course, yes, we planned it for 3 weeks, okay? Now, what happened after 3 weeks? Yes, the lockdown continued for many, many months after that. So what we had to plan for, right? We had to start thinking in a very strategic form. Yes, we did think about the present in the moment solution, but we also had to think long term, right? So as we provided those solutions in the moment, we also started thinking long term. How do we make sure that we keep this journey going consistently, and we are able to provide that solution that's needed for our learners. Okay. Yes, we had to think about multiple things, work with various departments. It included very heavily to work with the IT team, right? Because we need to make sure the technology was available for everybody. We needed to make sure that the people who we are hiring, work from home is not very simple for everyone, right? So I know a lot of organizations follow work from home, but sometimes people work from home for specific days, but continuously working from home, that brings about a completely different set of problems. Which, for example, if you're living in certain locations, it can be a power outage. You may not have a backup, in your particular house. That could be one thing. Now, maybe you're in a place and there's some sort of a cyclone or something, and then, you have a complete outage. Now, how do you deal with things like that? So, there were many things that we had to think about. And one of the good things is that we already had some of the technology in use already. Like, for example, for virtual meetings, right? We were all using Zoom or WebEx or Teams or some particular, interactive medium to make sure that communication was happening. But of course, we used it for meetings. Now we had to expand this particular opportunity for events, be it small term, be it full-fledged. Now, how do we bring in that classroom engagement kind of an offering within such kind of virtual medium? Because of course, it's not just about check mark, right? So it's not about you just preparing the particular presentation, putting it out there, but it's also about keeping the learners engaged. So obviously we had to figure out a lot of new things. We had to upskill the presenters to make sure that they're using all the tools that are currently existing, and of course think about new tools as well, because the need of the hour is maybe teams for smaller teams to collaborate very effectively. Now all of those things sort of came into play. Okay. And also it's about making sure that you get your learners to be on the driver's seat, right? So you can push someone to do something, but how do you motivate them? I know Pratima talked about a lot of those things. If you think back to what she shared and how we sort of implemented all of these things, you can sort of tie up a good structure in terms of what will work well. And of course, many things may work for certain organizations, so you need to figure out what works well for each organization, right? I know the next slide is going to be a little busy, but I'll just quickly cover what was the pre-COVID scenario, mostly classroom. And yes, there were a few online trainings, which was, of course, either vendor training or, any specific on-the-job, just-in-time kind of training and all of those things. Post-COVID, what changed, right? Yes, all the classroom completely became virtual or blended, right? Online, very good. We continued them as is. What was that new thing that came into play, right? Any meeting, started recording it, we started sharing it. Because if a person's not able to join at that time, can you make sure it's available later on, right? We started exploring new authoring tools because we wanted all our, content to be accessed on any medium, right?
Sorry to interrupt, Josephine.
Yeah.
But we are running short of time.
Okay. I'll just wind up.
Sorry.
All right. So, yeah, sure. Okay. So moving on, what's the future of our, workplace? We definitely need to empower our learners. And, this comes from helping them understand what is the skill requirement that they need. We put them on the driver's seat to learn, right? There are many tools that are out there. We just need to figure out what's the right thing that will work for us, and then make sure that learners have the ability to build their learning journey. Yes, we can do the push, but we also need to make sure that we enable people to take that next leap as well. All right. So with that, I'll wind up in the interest of time, and thank you so much for the opportunity right now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to add your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll look at it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josephine. Over to you, Sojanya now.
Okay, so hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Josephine and Pratima, for setting the platform on the ground and putting the primer. I know my video isn't great, but sorry, there is a power outage. I'm trying to do the best I can. So think of the lot of light coming behind my head as halo, and please don't get scared. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of power through it. Should you have any questions, please put them in the chat. You can feel free to, ping me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to Zeke and get more information, and I'll be more than happy to share them with you. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know once you guys are able to see it, and I will take it from there. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? I don't think so. Okay, so if I'm assuming that you guys can see my screen. If not, please unmute yourself and just let me know so that I'll go ahead and do something about it. So here I'm going to talk about navigating L&OD in a socially distanced world, right? So we have heard from Pratima and Josephine in terms of what COVID has done in terms of setting the context, accelerating whatever we wanted to do, and so on and so forth. In the interest of my time, I'm just going to skip my introduction and I'm going to jump right into the content. The first thing that I want to talk about is the blueprint, right? The heart and soul of any L&OD professional across the world are these three things. We always want to know what our participants want. In other words, we are always participant oriented. The second skill, or the second thing that we all keep very close to our heart, is knowing your sky and your grassroots. So what I mean by that is understanding what the organization vision, mission, and the objectives for that year are, and articulating and empowering people across the organization, across level, and in order to achieve the objectives that the organization aspires to achieve in the financial year or calendar year or in the long run, whatever timeline, right? The third one is what I call as localization, which is think global but act local. So look at global initiatives, look at global messages, look at global solutions. However, build them in such a fashion and deliver in such a fashion that it empowers and resonates with our people in our own geographies, right? This is the blueprint that all of us follow as an L&OD professional. Now, what has changed because of the pandemic? That's what we are going to be discussing in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever time I have. So in other words, we are going to look at these three aspects using the COVID lens, okay? Now, when we talk about the pandemic, so it was somewhere in February, if my memory serves me correct, when we started hearing about lockdown and the organization having discussions around asking us to working from home and so on and so forth. So I personally thought it was a great opportunity for us as L&OD professionals to demonstrate the behavior of being a change agent, catalyst, being agile and nimble that we always talk in all our training sessions. It was a great opportunity for us to demonstrate that behavior to the business. So we started looking at what are some of the training solutions we had planned for the Q2 2020 and started having conversations in terms of how do we transition that from a classroom format into a virtual world. Okay. The one guiding principle that me and my team were very, very adamant about throughout this transition that we were making was, let's look at what are the workshop objectives, use technology as a platform, and marry it to the physical and the mental mind space of our participants. Now, there were a lot of tools available. There were a lot of snipping tools, video tools, webinar tools, hosting tools available, but the core is just not to take a classroom training and put them into a virtual medium, but the core was to look at the psychological distancing that people were undergoing because of the pandemic from a physical and a mental standpoint, and how we can use technology to mitigate it. Now, for example, what we did was we were offering a 3-hour classroom training program on one of our products. So we wanted to transition that into a virtual medium, okay? Now, the first and foremost challenge we had was the scope of the participants. Now, when we talk about any classroom training, there is a lot of control that we as L&OD professional can do in terms of the knowledge level they all enter with, which was just not possible in the virtual world because everything that you put on an online or a virtual platform was accessible across time zones and by thousands and thousands of people. So the scope or the knowledge level of the participants was one of the first challenges that we had to look at. And number two, we are already at our attention span was pretty less, because of the social media mindset we are in. And in April, in Q2 2020, what happened is we were all adapting to this working from home situation. So attention span became even more less. So we had to look at, okay, how do we capture the attention span of these people? So what we started doing was we took our 3-hour classroom training program and we said, can we create playlist? Okay. Now, what we mean by a playlist is we took a 3-hour content and we divided that into bite-sized learning. For example, let's say if payments is one of the product that I'm talking about, then we said, okay, can we talk about payment ecosystem, payment architecture, payment 101? And how do we cut that whole content into such a fashion that it is bite-sized, number one, it has a proper beginning, context, and end, and it also has the hook so that people will go to the next module of our playlist. So that is the first task we started off with. And then we also decided what was important was that scope or the knowledge level of the participants I was talking about. So we designed pre-reads. And again, with the pre-read, we had this issue. It can be a maximum of 1, maximum 2 pages. It cannot be words. It has to be infographics. So it catches the attention of people. So every playlist for each of the modules would have a pre-read. It will have a bite-sized video webinar or audio webinar depending upon the topic. And number 3, we also started to give recommended learning where people can have a deep immersive experience. It could be LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, Coursera, some of our intranet sites that we were having, right? That was the third thing. The fourth and the most important component was in a classroom training, what we would achieve is the discussions. So we wanted to also look at the discussion boards. Now, discussion board is not new, right? So it's been there forever, but I think the pandemic kind of made it even more relevant and important for our people. Yes, I have a couple of them from my team as well in the call, so they will talk. They can share more experience offline, but discussion board has always been a pain point for us as L&D professionals because it would look like we own it, we kind of initiated, we put the questions all the time. It was our responsibility to keep it alive. But what we found is if you are able to ask the right set of questions, if that cutting of each sessions and having the pre-read and the post-read was done appropriately, the discussion boards were thriving on their own. So long story short, what happened was in that first 2 months, we had to literally manage the discussion boards for people. But right now it has become a very, very organic process that we don't even bother looking at the discussion boards because the participants are keeping it alive. And it has also given this great opportunity to learn from each other, right? That's the first mindset change or the first different things we started doing differently, okay? The second thing that I'm going to talk about is the most important thing that a lot of us miss because of working from home in a remote environment in a socially distanced world is the social learning component, right? The engagement has really dwindled between all of us. For lack of a better word, the corridor conversation or the water cooler conversation or the tribal knowledge that we all talk about, like what is happening in my organization, what are the new products that is available, what are some of the challenges people are facing, how do they mitigate all that, was completely missing because of the virtual training transition that we made. So we decided to look at social learning. So we looked at using a lot of collaborative tools, communication tools, and task-oriented tools. Most of you would be familiar. MS Teams has breakout options. We started using WorkRamp. We started using Miro boards for great collaboration. We started creating virtual communities of practice to enable the social learning. So one great example was, yes, we tried it with product training. Transition into virtual was successfully. For this example, I'm going to use is Adapting to Change workshop, which has been the most sought after workshop, especially during that time. So while we had that playlist component, we also added the social learning component by creating virtual break rooms and using workarounds and Miro boards and so on and so forth. The third thing is, I think the one thing that pandemic has taught all of us is about the skill gaps and the conversation in the corridor about upskilling and reskilling continuously. Okay. Now, what does it mean is I'm just going to take 10 seconds to give an example because most of us are L&OD. It should be easy for us to connect with is influencing without authority has always been, or how to be a good collaborator. So these topics have always been the most sought out topics in our environment. But while we were running those sessions continuously, but we also started to look at, okay, now how do you become a master collaborator in a socially distant world? Now you were a master collaborator in a remote environment before. Now, added with the challenges of social distancing and proxemics and psychological distancing, how all these skills needs to be amplified. What are some of the skills which is reusable? So those were some of the conversations that we were having when we talk about being future ready. I think I'm going at jet speed. If something is too fast, please do let me know. I will reduce my speed. I'm just cautious of the time. The fourth and the most important thing was, relook at our communication strategy as L&OD, right? I think Pratima spoke about unlearn, learn, and relearn, right? This has always been a mantra that we were having as L&OD professionals. But another one that we have learned quite recently within our organization, at least, is while unlearn, learn, relearn is definitely there, but learn, repeat, learn, repeat, learn, repeat is the mantra going forward, because the attention span that I spoke to you earlier, and given that, we are not meeting them very regularly, the social learning is not happening in a physical setup, sending the message continuously in different platform via different people is very, very critical. So building that stronger communication strategy becomes very, very important at this point of time for us, and it's going to be the same for the way forward. Last but not the least, I think this is one of my personal favorite. I think there were a lot of things that all of us wanted to do as L&OD professionals in the past, innovative, creative. But let's not kid ourselves. Usually we are one or two people in L&OD trying to pull the learning needs of the whole organization together. We are always spread thin, and all those things were happening. So I think this COVID has given us this unique opportunity to think outside of the box and go ballistic with our learning solutions, right? So be courageous, use that fail fast mechanism that we always talk about. But I think the business is also willing to experiment and see how we can bring more value to them in this virtual world. So just go ballistic and go ahead and do courageous things, okay? I'm just going to take about 30 seconds to talk about what is my courageous thing that I'm planning to do in my organization in the next couple of months, okay? Now, we started with classroom heavy. The last 8 months, we did the playlist, social learning, upskilling, reskilling, and communication strategy. Now, all this is from a training standpoint. Now, what we are looking at as the next step is not about training, but looking at learning, right? Learning as a solution. So we all know the importance of learning from our leaders, okay? Or, having these virtual mentoring sessions, shadowing conversations. Participants have a lot of inquisitiveness around the role. We all run this day in a life of a product manager or an engineering manager or an architect, depending upon the different industries we all come from. So while we have successfully transitioned each of these different pieces into a virtual world, for example, shadowing a leader is usually, one leader, is being shadowed by 5 people. We have transition that into a virtual world. What we are trying to do in this initiative is that, can we marry all these components together, right? Can we give a slice into the role that is being played by any individual? It could be a leader, it could be an architect, it doesn't matter. So that's number one. Number two is, can we also do this virtual shadowing? We can log in along with them and log out along with them and be part of the important decisions or conversations and meetings that they are part of. And number three, there is a lot of learnings that the leaders or the role holders would love to share with all of us. So how do we capture that? And fourth is, we as participants or as employees in the organization have a lot of questions that we would like to ask a leader or that role holder. So we are trying to pull all these things together, but keeping in mind, we are going to have about 50 to 60 hours of video and live footage and content. How do we storyboard it effectively and time box it in 15 to 20 minutes? Keeping in mind the playlist concept is what I and my team are working on as something courageous, right? So I think that is a unique thing that we are experimenting, and I think right till now it's been going in the right direction. But yes, so be courageous. Try as many things as you want in this world right now, because absolutely nobody else in the world can say that, hey, you know what? We have been in this situation, we have tried, it hasn't worked. Because I think we'll be the first generation who would have that liberty to say, maybe after 10 years down the lane, hey, during the pandemic, we tried it, it worked for us. So these are a couple of things I want to quickly share based on my personal experience during this pandemic as an L&OD professional. Hope you guys find it useful. Should you have more questions, please do reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much. And Let me take a breath now.
Lovely, Saujanya. Thank you so much. So is my screen visible?
Yeah.
All right, great. So I would really like to thank all the speakers for joining us today, and also to our participants. Since we are already way beyond time, I don't really think we'll be able to take the questions at this stage, but please feel free to post all the questions in the Q&A, and we are more happy to share the responses post the webinar. Also, my big thank you to all our speakers for taking your time amidst the busy schedule and sharing your expertise with us on navigating through these tough times. And I'm really sure that this session has been very productive for all our listeners. We have received a really overwhelming response from you, and this certainly encourages us to organize many more of these in the future. So, of course, the recording of this webinar would be available for post the processing, and we will intimate you once it is uploaded. So, also there is goes without saying that there's always a scope for improvement. So please feel free to share your feedback or any suggestions, and we are more happy to improve along the way. So thank you once again to all the speakers and attendees for joining us here today, and have a great one.
Thanks, everyone. It was a great experience. And have a great day.
Thank
Stay safe. Thank you.